Local productions seen on Delta College Public Media are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello everyone, welcome to Junia Doan's Spark. I'm Junia Doan and thank you for joining us. My guest today is Matthew Blong, art advisor and founder of Charting Transcendence Inc. Welcome, Matthew. Tell our audience what an art advisor does. What is the range an art advisor can offer a client?
So an art advisor helps to facilitate education as well as transactions in the art market. Essentially, it's a very interesting profession. I think some decades ago, there were probably just a handful of art advisors around the world, and now there are dozens, if not hundreds, of people in this field working full time to help bridge the gap between the sources of art that are on the market, primarily in galleries, but can also come from artist estates or the secondary market, that is auction houses and the like, and collectors who of course fuel the art market and are able to provide the financial support for thousands and thousands of artists who are creating work in this country and around the world today. Art advisors play this very important role because you need sometimes an intermediary between collectors who so often don't quite know where to begin looking for the art that's best suited for their interests and their needs. And essentially, art advisors are like myself, are looking at art full time and are maintaining relationships on numerous levels with artists, with galleries, with institutions such as museums that show art. And in order to maintain a kind of a balanced view of this very diverse systemic ecosystem of creators of objects of beauty, again, created for their own sake, and to know the prices and to know the importance, the relative importance of various pieces of art that may or that are on the market or otherwise in institutions. It's a full-time job to stay ahead of this industry. Just as in other industries, there are people that help facilitate experiences in different industries such as entertainment. Art advisors like myself are constantly striving to help connect people with art that they're going to love, and my goal as an art advisor is to hopefully help a collector find art that they otherwise would not have been able to find on their own, or to simply make sure that they get the most value for their money in terms of the art that they're looking for whatever purpose that might be.
In the contemporary field, there's an onslaught of
Yes.
artists to be recognized or chosen to be bought. What's the best system for yourself to keep up with that?
Well, I've been doing it for quite a while, and I started quite a while ago, over a decade ago, just out of pure kind of interest and curiosity, because at some point, I've always loved going to museums ever since I was a child, but I think as I got older, it became more of a passion, and along with my passions for travel and exploration of culture and things around the world. Contemporary art was just something I started noticing and paying a lot of attention to in my 20s. And then by the time I got into my 30s, I was going to quite a few museums regularly, in various cities around the country and around the world. And then later I chose to get a master's degree in contemporary art from the Sotheby's Institute of Art in New York City, and that was a great program that helped me contextualize the vast breadth of contemporary art being made today. And certainly that's, I think, an important reason why art advisors exist, because 50 years ago you could limit your interest of art, contextualize and categorize art by various schools and various styles and art from various countries. But since the 1990s or so, it seems that contemporary artists these days are doing everything everywhere all at once. And it's almost kind of like there are not really schools of art anymore. Certainly there are styles and there are things that harken back to various art historical roots and so on. And there's people that specialize in painting and specialize in photography or sculpture or what have you. But it's really the kitchen sink all at once in terms of if you were to go to art galleries in New York and start looking, how would you even begin to know where to look if you're just if you haven't had a lot of exposure to it? That's why it is very helpful to consult with a professional, especially if you're planning to drop a significant amount of money on one or more pieces of art. An art advisor is going to be like a realtor on the real estate market, to help you make sure that you're getting the best value for your money and that you're getting the best deal. In a way. Now, not everybody will necessarily buy a piece of art in their lifetime, like many or most people at some point would buy a home or aspire to buy a home. And certainly having a roof over your head is more of a necessity in life than having a painting to hang on your wall. But at the same time, it is a similar market to real estate in that you have all of these different discrete objects of beauty created for their own sake. And there's no central database where you can look for all of them. I mean, the internet is helpful for that, certainly. And there's a lot that can be browsed on various websites and on Instagram and on Artsy and so on. But to really know what's out there and to understand the breadth of art advice of what the contemporary art market is, it is very helpful to have a professional point of view, and that's something that I strive to constantly stay on top of my knowledge of the market and comparatively know what the kind of art that I could deliver for any given client is.
From what I've read of you, you're really drawn to maybe another level of contact with art and its effect on you, a transcendence,
Yes.
a romance for it, the ability to change emotions, ideas,
Yes.
physical. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah. So the name of my company that I founded close to 3 years ago is Charting Transcendence. And Charting Transcendence, I came up with this name actually 4 or 5 years ago when I was doing some kind of, I was working with a life coach to help define some of the things that I felt I'm really good at, because I wanted to leverage my experience and my strengths
Which
into
is
doing
very
something entrepreneurial. And I wasn't, I had art advisory in mind for a while, and I had a degree in contemporary art and was something I was very passionate about. But I looked at the art market and I looked at other advisors who were acting more as agents and acting more as salespeople. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to create an art advisory model in which I could act as a guide to clients and really help them go deeper than just scratching the surface when it comes to art. And so the charting transcendence part, and I love that charting literally has the word art right in the middle of it. But the charting part of this refers to how I approach looking at art and contextualizing with all the other art that's out there is sort of like building a map. So, and the logo that a friend of mine who's an artist designed for me several years ago has that map on there, the grid, which is a fundamental structure for maps, especially is important in terms of the development of contemporary art in the 1960s and 70s, with contemporary artists looking at the structure of the grid and of geometric abstraction, because it all comes down to math at the end of the day, I believe, having that structure and having that map. But then the transcendent part is where I like to go from the map with my clients to the transcendence. And the transcendence is going to be specific and particular to each individual client. But it is that notion of going beyond the everyday, going beyond the ordinary into something extraordinary and perhaps unknown. But that transcendence is the goal in which I would like to deliver a piece of art or a collection of art for the clients that's going to continually bring them to that point of going beyond the ordinary, the everyday, into something fantastical, something magical, something that really speaks deeply to the kind of undefinable elements in our psyches and in our souls. That's the goal that I have with working with clients in charting transcendence. So I may not be the art advisor for everyone. If someone has a clear idea of what they want and what they like, and they just kind of want to show off, a certain set of artists on their wall, then my approach is going to be a little bit more kind of intuitive in terms of trying to figure out what speaks most deeply to the client, and maybe it's something that they don't even quite know. But I've gone through this process of myself of having a sense of where I want to go with art, and then building a map and linking various uh, artists and media and ideas, because a lot of contemporary art is very conceptual, meaning that the idea has primacy over the actual form that the art takes.
Understanding is it innate in a person, in some people, to have an emotional or spiritual reaction to a piece of art, or is it in the dialogue that you sense something in that person that can be developed or leans towards a certain kind of visual and a physical and joyful experience?
It depends on the individual, of course, but I believe that every one of us is capable of having a transcendent experience around art, whether whether it's due to the formal elements in a piece of art or the more conceptual elements. Once you understand what the art is doing, and how the artist perhaps arrived at the decision to create that piece of art, whether the formal elements, the colors, the shapes, the materials, or the conceptual aspects, that is, the ideas that go into the creation of the art and that are generated from the viewer's interaction with the art. I mean, these are ideas that are definitely
So
have
that's
been.
more intellectual than I thought. So before the program, everybody, he and I were talking, and I was telling him, when I look at any art, even clouds, there's
Yes.
some I relate to, and I get a sense of weakness, of overwhelming poetry, of overwhelming universal transcendence. And most I don't, and it doesn't change. And I'm thinking, well, everybody else is telling me, look for this, look for that, but I just reject something automatically that I don't have an emotional, I don't react to emotionally, or whatever this is that I'm feeling.
That's fine. For sure. I definitely don't have a strong emotional reaction to most of the art that I see, because most of the art that's out there isn't really good, in my opinion, and it is subjective. I say to people
Right.
that, most art out there isn't really that good, but it's not about the quality, because it's so subjective. You have to find the best art that's what's good for you. And if you love art that 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 is about clouds and whether it's photographs or paintings or sculptures, some sort of manifestation of clouds. Well, I can think of a number of examples of great artwork around clouds. What's more interesting for me is why did the clouds speak to you? What kind of emotions come up? What kind of associations in your mind do you have around clouds? And then we would work from there to kind of pull some of those emotions and ideas apart until we arrive at a piece, or pieces of art, a body of work that involves clouds, that is going to bring you that feeling of joy and transcendence when you interact with it. And it's fine if someone else says, well, you should really like horses or something like that, and it's like, no, well, just horses just doesn't do it for me. I don't have that kind of relational, meaning making process around horses in my life. Although there are plenty of artists that paint horses, and there's a whole genre of art, of equine and equestrian art, and museums dedicated to it, and so on. For me, it doesn't particularly do it. But if a client wanted to explore that, then I would work with them to find the very best art, um, involving horses that their money could buy. And there's plenty of it out there, and I've seen great examples of that too. So if I can help deliver that to someone, then probably I would start to like the art, some of the art around horses, even if horses aren't particularly meaningful.
Seems what are you here for, in a sense? What do you do well? And you're a very talented person. You've done a lot of things
Yes.
well. So,
Yeah.
at college, it was about photography
Yes,
eventually.
exactly. Yes.
Then State Department,
Right.
patriot, help the world, help the United States.
Yes.
Then business degree, and so on. And so, do you think you found the path, or is the
Absolutely.
path?
Certainly, art is one of the things that I find so engaging, in a way that I could just kind of wrap continually wrap my mind around various aspects of art, day in and day out, almost effortlessly. Of course, what I do is hard work, but it comes from a place of passion, and through art, I'm able to understand how all of the things in life, the mysteries and the facts of life, alike, are related. And it's not even just about the visual arts, but I also have a great passion for music. And I'm in this phase in my life where, for about 7 or 8 years now, I've been exploring classical music and reading about composers of music, and how much effort they put into crafting their art forms. And I read about other artists, painters and sculptors, and various things, how all of these things relate together, and how the feelings that these arts engender can really be a source of salvation for us in otherwise very difficult times. And so I just have a lot of passion for that, and I think that the, what I do now is the culmination of many years of having explored that, first through my interest in photography. And I was planning to take that further until when I was a senior at Yale College in September 2001. The planes hit the towers, and I reacted as many people did, and I decided that I wanted to try to help my country at that point. And so I applied to and was accepted for the Foreign Service, which became my career throughout my 20s. I also had a talent for languages. I guess I have a good ear and a very good brain for languages. So always learning languages and studying linguistics. I wanted to have a chance to go overseas and interact with people from different cultures, and I learned a lot about that, and I was able to use those skills in business. And certainly, that exposure that I had to, I was lived overseas for 10 years and have traveled to around 100 countries worldwide. Wherever I went, I was looking at art in some form, whether it was in a museum or in some sort of public forum, in architecture, in, public arts, explorating the exploration of culture throughout the world has enriched my life so much, and it is the basis and the foundation for when I look at contemporary art today, because uh, so many ideas are woven into contemporary art, so many diverse ideas from around the world, and having had that broad exposure helps me to figure out how all these things come together in various manifestations of fine contemporary art.
Did I hear you say salvation? Art could be a
Yeah, it's
salvation.
like I don't mean to insinuate a religious term. I'm not particularly religious, but I would say that it in a way it can save us. Art can save us um, from a sense of despair and meaninglessness that we might otherwise find in the world. I think my life would not have been nearly as meaningful had I stayed in careers where I was simply an intermediary, simply relaying ideas and striving for something that I didn't really believe in. So the salvation comes from being touched and moved by um, some aspect of human creation that creates meaning and ultimately like saves the day, so to speak. Um, that brings you out of your everyday existence to that moment of like when I see really great art and it brings tears to my eyes, or I listen to fantastic music and I get chills up and down my spine. Then it kind of doesn't matter if I'm having an otherwise bad day, because I can get lost in that in that art experience, and it saves the day. So that's kind of what I mean by a salvation. However, you want to relate that to your personal uh, beliefs, whether they be religious or spiritual, that is totally uh, dependent on you. I have my own sense of spirituality, and I know for me, it involves um, placing meaning upon those artistic creations that I interact with on a regular basis.
That's so interesting. The idea that in a chaotic life, order and meaning can come, and release and relief can from either hearing or seeing something beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a choice that each one of us has. Again, and it's personal and individual to you. But if you understand that you have a choice of what kind of art you would like to look for, you would like to spend time with, you would like to experience and buy and own and make part of your collection, perhaps hand it down to your children or grandchildren. You have a choice. No one's going to tell you, certainly not me, that you have to have this piece of art or this kind of painting is going to um, uh, you know be the thing for you. You have to find what speaks most deeply to you, because there's a choice in how we relate to life, and a choice that we have to seek our joy, or to wallow in our despair. And so that's something that I've learned through a lot of internal work on myself. And of course, like everyone else, just striving to do my best and to share my talents and passions and gifts with the world. And I do that through art and through charting transcendence.
What do you have to say about the role of relationships in creating peace or um, a sustained sense of joy?
Life is relational, and all art is relational in terms of, you know, from the moment it's conceived of and created by the artist to the time when it hangs on someone's wall, or is shown in a museum. We're all forming relationships with ideas, with people, with institutions, with objects, and those are contributing to the meaning that sustains us throughout life. If we don't have those connections and don't have those interactions, then we don't have those opportunities to create meaning. And one thing I think is very important is to understand that when you're buying contemporary art today, you're supporting living artists, the vast majority of whom are are not wealthy or well off. They may simply be struggling to get by. Most of them have to maintain other jobs. In fact, in order to sustain their studio practices, it's relatively few artists out of all the ones out there who are able to make a full-time living as artists, and even fewer, just a tiny percentage, who become superstars in their field.
Totally out of time. We
Okay.
could go for a half hour at least. I'm so grateful.
I'm so grateful to you too, Junia. Thank you.
To contact Junia, send her an email at juniadonsthespark@gmail.com. For more information, program schedules, and news about future guests, go to www.juniadonthespark.com. Thank you for joining us. See you next time on Junia Doan's The Spark.
Local productions seen on Delta College Public Media are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.